Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera show. You know, if somebody asked me what my favorite sweet was, I would say chocolate. So today we're gonna have a chocolate meltdown and I'm gonna show you all different kinds of ways in different courses of your meal to use chocolate. We're gonna start with the mozzarella strawberry salad that has a chocolate vinaigrette that you are gonna absolutely love. Then we're gonna do a pomegranate pistachio crostini. That can be the toast next to your salad, or it could be a past hors d'oeuvre. Then we're gonna do a chocolate dream pie that is an old family recipe. And in presentation, I'm gonna throw in a twist for a favor that you can give your guests when they leave. So let's get started on that mozzarella strawberry salad. All right, is this colorful or not? I am so excited about this salad, and actually, a lot of times when my husband is out of town, this is the kind of thing that I like to make for myself. I just love a great salad. So this is a mozzarella strawberry salad using arugula and spinach fresh, and we're gonna do a chocolate vinaigrette that goes on top of it. So let's talk about one of the ingredients that we had to do in advance, the prosciutto. If you try to toast that or get it crisp in a pan, it's gonna burn very easily because there's not enough oil in it to make it do like bacon does in a pan. So put it on a sheet pan, maybe with a piece of parchment paper, 400-degree oven for about 6 minutes, and it crisps up just like bacon. It is so delicious. The other thing that we did in advance was our chocolate to melt it. And this is where I love to use my favorite piece of Wolf equipment in my kitchen, and that's the under-counter microwave. It's just so easy for people like me that are short. You're not reaching up to do something. And so I did this chocolate for 30-second intervals and stirred it, and then just in a minute it was completely done. So that's perfect. All right, the other tip that I would love to give you is that when you do a salad, I'd rather see it go up and not out, especially since I'm using such a gorgeous plate. This is Lenox, and this is the autumn pattern, and Replacements Limited is my new partner, and they're just sending me these amazing dishes all season. I'm so excited. All right, so we're gonna start by building the salad. And this is a first course, so again, you're not trying to overload. But if I was doing this as a dinner course, which I'm gonna show both in presentation today, then I would have a little bit more on the actual dinner plate. All right, now I've got the little mozzarella balls. I'm gonna do about 5 or 6 of those. And then the strawberries you also want to do at the last minute, slicing those. And even if it's just for you, make it pretty. There's just nothing like a gorgeous presentation. Okay, so now I'm gonna add a little bit of the prosciutto. And like I said, just look at that. Now this is one of my favorite things, you know, even as it is on a charcuterie board, but it's really pretty on this salad. Okay, so let's make the dressing because my little chocolate curls are gonna go last. So I've got my melted chocolate. I'm gonna add into that my balsamic vinegar, and I've got my wire whisk here that will just whisk it as it goes. And I like to do it in a measuring cup that has a handle because then when I get ready to pour it into my cruet, it's easy to go. Now I've got my oil, honey, and you know, Augusta, Georgia's got some really sweet honeybees, so we love our local honey here in Augusta. And then I'm using kosher salt and fresh ground pepper. Okay, so let's just mix that up. And like I said, we're doing a version of both a dinner salad and a side salad. So right before presentation, I will add on my chocolate vinaigrette. I'll do the little chocolate curls, and this will be beautiful just as a side salad. But on the main course, what I'm gonna do is a piece of seared salmon to go on top of that, because I felt like salmon really complemented the other colors that we're using today. And then the next dish that we are gonna make, the pomegranate pistachio crostini is going to be my toast on the side of this. So it's going to be a beautiful presentation. So come back with me in just a few minutes and we'll get started on the crostini. Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining me, we are having a chocolate meltdown today. You know, we always think of really cute things to say about what each show is going to be. And since we were melting chocolate for most of them, we thought that would be good. And it's actually one of my favorite ingredients and my favorite thing to eat, sweet-wise, is chocolate. So if you're just joining me, we did finish the salad. It's a delicious spinach and arugula, has mozzarella balls, strawberries. We did a chocolate vinaigrette dressing to go on it, and that can go in a cruet and last in the refrigerator for quite a while. So it's a beautiful salad. So now we're going to start on a appetizer or a side toast that you can use if you're doing the salad as a dinner salad. So this is a pomegranate pistachio crostini, and it's really easy to make, and it's so colorful and delicious. All right, so we had a little bit we had to do in advance. So I bought the long French baguette at the grocery store, and then I cut some of them on a diagonal and some of them round. And the reason I did that is if you're passing or using something on a charcuterie board, you want it to be 2 bites, and the little rounds are just that. But if you're having it on a dinner salad where you're seated at the table with your silverware and your napkin in your lap, then you can go a little bit more than that in terms of the size. So it works out beautifully. Then I melted some butter, took my pastry brush and lightly coated each one, and I toasted these in the oven. And now I went ahead and shaved my chocolate using a mandolin. And as always, our recipes are available on our website at VeryVera.com. All right, so let's do the spread that goes on top. So this is cream cheese that's at room temperature, nice and soft. And I'll just get that kind of whipped up before I start with the other ingredients. Now we're gonna add in orange juice. And so orange juice will also make this cream cheese curdle just a little bit. So make sure that you've got a large enough bowl that you can work with it in terms of moving it around. So that looks just about right. So now we're gonna add in honey. So we've used that in 2 recipes today. I always have it in my pantry because I love to cook with it. All right, so now I'm going to start spreading this mixture, and I'll start with the larger baguette first, the crostini. So we're going to do a nice coat, and then, you know, you may think that I bought a whole pomegranate and I seeded it. Well, guess what? In the produce department of your grocery store where the cut up fruit is, you can purchase this just like I've got it right here. So it makes it really easy to use, and just look how pretty that is. Right now I add a few pieces of pistachio, and then I'm going to top it with some shaved chocolate. I mean, honestly, with the red and green, this would be really attractive during the holidays. But like I said, I love to use that one on a salad, and then this one could go on a charcuterie board, or it could be a passed appetizer or a stationary appetizer if you were having friends over for cocktails. All right. So we're going to finish these up during the break. And again, this is kind of a last minute thing that you have to do, is to get this made because you want the crostini to stay crisp. It will start being compromised the minute you put that cream cheese filling on the top. So that might be a last, but if you have all of your ingredients measured, then it makes it really easy to do. So when we come back from the break, we're gonna get started on the chocolate dream pie, which the recipe is at least 50 years old. So I cannot wait to share it with you. Come back with me in just a few minutes. All right, so I hope you all have had fun today. We're doing a chocolate meltdown, and it smells so amazing in this kitchen. The salad with the dressing is such a good recipe. The crostini that we just did, that can be a great appetizer or a toast for a main dish salad. But I've saved the best for last, the dream pie. And this really takes me back. You know, I've got my apron on, and at one point we had a little newsletter that said, pull on her apron strings, and I can see myself standing next to my grandmother with her apron on, and I'd want to see more, and I'd be pulling on her apron string. So this is one of those recipes. This is just a family favorite. It goes back a long, long way, and there are parts of it that I think that you will use for other purposes as well. All right, so I had a little bit I had to do in advance, and this is one of the parts that you're going to find yourself using for other pie fillings, and it's the crust. So this is a concoction of my grandmother's, and I will have to admit, when I was little, I probably didn't understand it. I was used to the graham cracker crust, but this crust is so good. We use it on our peanut butter pie. We use it on the lemon icebox pie sometimes. It's great on a chess pie or a buttermilk pie, but this is the recipe for the dream pie, and it started with this crust. So it's oatmeal, it's toasted almonds, it's toasted coconut, it's margarine, not butter, and brown sugar, light brown sugar. And so if any of those ingredients don't appeal to you, the toasted coconut or the toasted almonds, you can leave one of those out. You don't have, but you'll have to double the amount in order for it to fill the shell right. But you mix that together, and I use my hands. The margarine was at room temperature, and you just mix it up by hand, and then you're going to pour it into the pie pan. And at that time, just use your tablespoon to your stainless steel silverware pattern and press it into the pan really well. Once it's baked for 10 minutes and you take it out of the oven, you're going to use that same spoon to push it back up against the edges, because it will, you know, kind of go down a little bit when you do that. But it crisps up really nicely, and I just love it. All right, so the next part is the filling for this. So on this, the original recipe, which I actually have the card, and you know, our first book, Recipes for My Table, had all of these recipe cards in the front. And all the time people will say, you know, I had that same recipe card, you know, in my recipe box. So this has gotten so faint I can hardly read it anymore. That's how old this recipe is. But it called for Cool Whip. And I honestly probably think that this was one of the original Cool Whip recipes, because that was a relatively new product that many years ago. And I've opted not to change the recipe. I mean, this could be made from scratch, whipped cream, but it's so good just the way it is that we still use Cool Whip. You can either use the 2 8-ounce containers or the 1 16-ounce, but this is 16 ounces. And then I use the melt feature on my Wolf cooktop. And this just slowly melts that chocolate. You don't even have to stir it, but the amount that I did today to make it go a little bit faster, I did actually stand and stir it. So the lumps in this right now are not chocolate, it's the almonds. So I'm going to pour that in to the Cool Whip. And it's kind of cooled down a little bit, because you don't want to wilt the Cool Whip. So it's not piping hot anymore. It's cooled down just a bit, but still nice and creamy. Now this is one of the tips. You know, the third cookbook comes out in May, and it's the children's book, and it's recipes like this that we can teach techniques. So the folding technique is basically what I'm doing right now, is over and under. Doesn't that just look delicious? Over and under. And if you really want a pretty marbling, like the picture in our cookbook, occasions where this pie is featured, then just take your time, go slow, so you have that pretty marbled effect. And then I'm just going to pour this directly in to the pie plate. And let me also remind you that I did not prepare this pie plate like every other time I use Pyrex. I'm either buttering it or spraying it, but because your filling uses margarine, margarine is oil so additional oil is not needed. All right, so I'm gonna get every last bit of this out. And it's a mile-high dream pie, right? And you just wanna spread it about and make sure you're gonna have a really pretty presentation. All right, so speaking of presentation, we're gonna be heading over to my daughter-in-law's, Mary Margaret Kilpatrick, and her dining room is so beautiful, and we're gonna make it even prettier with Replacements Limited. So come back with us in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone. And as I said, I was going to be going over to my son and his wife's home here in Augusta, Cord and Mary Margaret Kilpatrick, and certainly it is popping the chocolate meltdown today. It's just such a beautiful home, lovely dining room. We actually did a photo shoot here several months ago with Okra Magazine that turned out beautifully as well. All right, so let's walk back through what we did today. We started with the mozzarella strawberry salad, and as mentioned and shown during the show, we have a salad plated version, and we also have an entree plated version. So my tips are always to let the plate show go high instead of wide so that you don't make it look overwhelming when you sit it down. And on the dinner one, we did a piece of seared salmon on the top, and the crostini that we did earlier has a little bit of that on the plate as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the dressing that we made, the chocolate balsamic, as I said, once you've mixed it all together, you can put it in a cruet. And a lot of people order their dressing on the side, so it's always nice to be able to do that right at the last minute. And just look at it. I mean, it is amazing. All right, just make sure you get all that off. All right, so in terms of this particular presentation, this is the Autumn Pattern by Lenox. And I got married in the early 70s, and this was like everybody's favorite china pattern. So as I said about Replacements Limited, if you happen to break this, or worst case scenario, your grandmother's china, don't worry, because I can assure you that they have it in stock. So it's just a great way to enhance what you have. So here's a plate from the 70s on top of a charger plate that is brand new. And so it pops the orange. And this is what I mean about Replacements Limited. It's like taking that basic black dress and having pearls one day and having something funky and sporty and cool the next time you wear it. You just completely change it up. So as you're thinking into the holidays coming up, if you've got a piece of china that you love, maybe look on their website at a particular charger that might pop your dinner plate. I absolutely love that. Okay, so let's go back to the crostini for a minute. I spoke about the fact that you can cut it this size when you're sitting down and you're eating it for an actual meal. But we love to pass appetizers through our catering and hospitality service, but we also love to do gorgeous charcuterie boards. So the round size, which is 2 bites, would be perfect for either one of those scenarios. All right, the next thing we did was the chocolate dream pie. And what we did today to kind of pop that out and go with the different designs that we have in our china today is I used another pattern of china that complements the autumn, and that is tobacco leaf. So it has all of the same colors, but it's a more of a modern look. It's kind of an abstract look. And in this particular dining room with the gorgeous Greg Howard abstract painting, that really pops in here. Well, we thought, what could we do to garnish it that would add even more color to the pie? So we found some pearlized edible sprinkles, and they were the colors that you see in this plate rim. So it just turned out beautifully. It's really delicious. And as you can see, that crust is amazing. All right, so we had a little surprise that I talked about at the beginning, and I love to have a little favor when we have a dinner party, have something that everybody can leave with. So we did a white chocolate mix, a Czech mix to go with that. And so it's an easy recipe to make. You toast your pecans, and we always use Pearson Farm pecans. And these are the elegant halves that we cut up to be bite-sized. Then once you've toasted them and you've removed them from the oven, then you're gonna add the pretzels and the Czech mix to go in with that. Pour the butter on top and then put it back in the oven. Once it's finished cooking, then you're gonna bring it back out, pour all of that into a bowl, put the melted white chocolate in on top of it and mix it up really well. Let that go onto a sheet pan so it can cool. And then we've wrapped it in little clear bags. We also did boxes. And I went to my fabric store and found all these little thin ribbons that were all the colors in the plate. And you know, these are the little tips that we give the children that work with us during summer camp, is go the extra step to really make quite an impression. All right, so the water glasses today we kind of mixed up. We did a couple of different patterns. I don't usually use gold flatware, but isn't it perfect in this room? So a lot of times your setting will change it. And then the woodland figurines were just another pop that Replacement said, throw in a few of those as well. So that was fun. The flowers are from Flowers on Broad. So it's a gorgeous table, a wonderful menu. And as I always say on the Very Vera Show, no matter what you do it in good taste. And I hope you'll come back and join me next week.